Imagine this. One decision, made by a Roman soldier on a battlefield, echoing down through centuries, actually shaping empires, changing beliefs.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It really is. And today, we're going to explore that transformative era, roughly the 4th to the 11th centuries, a time that was, you could say, kicked off in a way by that single choice.
A period of clashing empires, faiths really taking root, and leaders who changed everything.
Welcome, everyone. We've been looking through some fascinating historical accounts, and our goal today is to really pull out the key moments, connect some surprising dots from this pivotal time.
We'll be navigating the rise and fall of empires, how religious doctrines got hammered out, and how new cultural identities started forming across Europe and Asia.
And before we jump right in, just a quick mention of something that might help you continue thinking about these big ideas. Check out Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel.
Yes, they offer AI-powered analyses of books. It's designed to spark your own reflection, help you grapple with complex ideas long after, discussions like this one wrap up.
Exactly. So let's start where it arguably all pivoted. Constantine.
Right, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, 312 AD, that's the moment. Lactantius describes Constantine's soldiers with a Christian symbol on their shields. A potent image for a changing world.
Mm-hmm. Though Zosimus gives a different picture, doesn't he? Maxentius's head on a spear. More brutal reality, perhaps?
Well, yes. The exact imagery is debated, but what's pretty clear is Constantine's actions afterwards. He definitely threw his weight behind the Christian church.
Absolutely. It wasn't just one battle. Between 312 and 330 AD, you see him actively, getting involved in shaping Christian doctrine.
And that influence spread. Think about King Azan of Axum. He converts to Christianity in the 330s.
Which seems like a very canny political move, right? Aligning Axum with Rome, setting them against Persia.
Precisely. Politics and faith intertwined, and these ripples spread far. Around the same time, maybe 319 AD, you've got Chandragupta in India setting up an empire along the Ganges.
Taking the title Great King of Kings, not exactly modest.
No. And his son, Samudragupta, pushed that expansion much further, across the Ganges, down into southern India, forcing rulers to pay tribute. It's interesting to see this consolidation happening elsewhere, too.
Yeah, but it wasn't all moving in one direction. While Constantine was backing Christianity over in Persia, King Shapur II was actively persecuting Christians.
A stark contrast. And he earned that nickname, Du el Aktaf, the man of the shoulders, apparently for his tough campaigns against the Arabs.
It shows how complex the era was. Not just a simple story of Christian ascendancy.
Not at all. And even within the Roman Empire, after Constantine, things were far from stable. You had Constantius II's reign, the usurper Magnentius popping up.
Shapur taking back Armenia.
Right, and that battle at Amida, just brutal. The description of dead being packed so tightly they couldn't fall down, it paints a grim picture of the warfare back then.
Then, mid-century, you get this fascinating blip, Julian the Apostate.
361 to 364 AD, a brief but really interesting attempt to swing back to Roman paganism.
Rejecting Christianity, reopening old temples, even trying to stop Christians from teaching literature. A total reversal.
It really was. It shows, I think, that the old ways still had some pull, even as Christianity was becoming more dominant. But ultimately, he didn't succeed.
No, the tide had turned too far, perhaps. Then the late 4th century hits with, more problems. Natural disasters, barbarian attacks.
And people trying to understand it all through a religious lens, whether Roman pagan or Christian. You had Valence's disastrous Gothic War, Valentinian's incredibly harsh reaction to the Quadi. The borders were definitely under pressure.
And while all this is happening in the Roman world, what's going on elsewhere?
Well, looking east, King Sosrom of Goguryeo in Korea was refounding his state. And in Baekje, another Korean kingdom, King Gonchogo set up hereditary succession and embraced Buddhism around 384 AD.
So similar processes, state building, adopting major religions happening continents apart.
It's quite striking. Back in Rome, Theodosius Horde tries to impose unity on the Christian church. The Council of Constantinople in 381 is key there.
Elevating the Bishop of Constantinople. That caused some friction, didn't it, with Rome and Alexandria?
Oh, yes. Big time, shaking up the old hierarchy. But you also had figures like Silico showing a real diplomatic skill, negotiating the split of Armenia between Rome and Persia in 384.
Diplomacy was crucial, but the church's power was growing internally too. Ambrose, the Bishop of Milan, confronting Theodosius after the massacre in Thessalonica.
That's a huge moment, forcing the emperor to do public penance. It really demonstrates the church's rising moral and perhaps political authority.
Then comes the Battle of the Frigidus in 394. often seen as paganism's last stand against Theodosius's Christianity.
And Theodosius wins. He controls a whole empire, east and west.
Yes.
But it's the last time. After him, it splits for good. A real end of an era.
It really makes you think about what holds societies together, which leads nicely into Augustine in North Africa.
Yes, Augustine wrestling with divided loyalties, the earthly city versus the city of God. His conversion story is famous, of course, hearing the child's voice pick up and read. Immense intellectual influence.
Moving into the 5th century, there's that quite remarkable moment when the Eastern Emperor Arcadius dies, and the Persian king, Yazdegerd I, becomes guardian for the young Theodosius II.
An unexpected truce, brokered by a rival king ensuring peace between the empires. Quite extraordinary.
But peace didn't mean an end to theological arguments. The Nestorian controversy kicks off.
Right, centered in Antioch and Alexandria. All about the nature of Christ, how divine and human natures coexist. Was Mary the mother of God, or just the mother of Christ's human form?
Big questions, leading to the Council of Ephesus in 431.
Which condemned Nestorius. It was a major step in defining doctrine, and interestingly, it also boosted the authority of the Bishop of Rome in these matters.
Meanwhile, the Western Empire is visibly fragmenting. The Visigoths under Ataulf set up a kingdom in southern Gaul, Toulouse, around 413.
Initially, they even talked about restoring Roman rule themselves, which is fascinating. And elsewhere, you had groups like the Hephthalites in North India, sometimes described as relatively just rulers compared to other invaders.
There were even origin myths linking them to Shem, shows how people tried to make sense of these new powers.
Definitely. And compare that to China, where the Northern Wei dynasty rises. Wei Taiwu makes Taoism the state religion and brings in the equal field land system, different places, different solutions.
Then, of course, the big one, the Huns.
Ah, yes. Aetius in Gaul is already struggling to hold things together against Franks, Burgundians.
And then the Huns unify under Rua and later Attila and Bleda. They start hitting Roman forts. There's a truce in 441, but the pressure is immense.
Culminating in Attila's invasion of Gaul and his defeat, or at least check at the Catalonian plains in 451.
And the famous meeting between Pope Leo Work and Attila near Rome in 452.
A moment shrouded in legend. Did Leo persuade him? Or was it more practical losses, loot already gathered, disease perhaps spreading in Attila's army? Probably a mix.
Likely. What's clear is the West is crumbling, while the East, despite its own issues like Marcion's church council sorting out Christ's nature again, is comparatively stable.
Relatively speaking, yes. The mid-5th century really feels like a tipping point for the West. Over in Ireland, you have Niall of the Nine Hostages consolidating power, raiding Britain and Gaul, laying foundations for high kingship.
But back in the heart of the Western Empire, Aetius is assassinated, chaos follows.
Leading to the Vandal sack of Rome in 455. Gaiseric leads them in. Pope Leo intervenes again, maybe preventing a total massacre, but not the looting and kidnapping.
That's where we get the word vandalize, isn't it?
Indeed. And after that, it's just a revolving door of weak emperors in the West. Orestes puts his own son, Romulus Augustulus, on the throne in 475 after deposing Julius Nepos.
Until the famous date, 476 AD.
When the Germanic general Odoacer deposes young Romulus Augustulus, sends the imperial insignia to Constantinople, he rules Italy as king, technically under the Eastern Emperor,
But Roman rule in the West is effectively over.
Pretty much. Then you get Theodoric establishing an Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy, trying to blend Roman administration with Gothic rule, Clovis uniting the Franks and converting to Catholic Christianity.
A crucial decision for the future of France.
Absolutely. And the Anglo-Saxon settlement of Britain is well underway. Vortigern fails to hold them back, but you get figures like Ambrosius Aurelianus winning at Mountbatten around 485.
The potential seed for the King Arthur legends.
Quite possibly. Meanwhile, the Eastern Empire, Byzantium as we start to call it, survives. Though Persia under the Sassanids gives them trouble, especially with the Hephthalites on their other border.
Emperor Anastasius rules in the east, then Justin, paving the way for his nephew.
Justinian ascends in 527, hugely ambitious, wants to reunite the whole Roman Empire.
Famous for the Nika riots in 532, where his wife Theodora supposedly stiffened his resolve, and of course his massive legal project, Justinian's Code.
Foundational for Western law. But then disaster strikes. The plague of Justinian.
Devastating. Wipes out a huge chunk of the population in Constantinople and beyond.
A massive blow. Yet Justinian pushes on with his reconquests. Belisarius, his general, takes North Africa from the Vandals, then battles the Ostrogoths in Italy.
He succeeds, mostly, but at great cost. And Italy doesn't stay reconquered for long.
No. Soon after Justinian's death, the Lombards invade Italy in 568. carving out their own kingdom. Byzantine control shrinks. The focus of the Eastern Empire shifts definitively eastward. Greek becomes dominant. The split with the Bishop of Rome widens.
While this is going on, what's happening further east?
In Korea, Silla is pushing for unification, adopting Chinese titles and administration under Qijun. Buddhism spreads there under King Jinhong. In China, the Beiwei dynasty splits. The capital moves to Luoyang.
And the Frankish kingdom, after Clovis.
Divides among his sons. You get these distinct kingdoms, Austrasia, Neustria, Burgundy. And crucially, the rise of the mayors of the palace, officials who start wielding the real power behind the throne, like Pippin the Elder.
Right, the seeds of the next dynasty, back in Britain.
The Anglo-Saxons start converting to Christianity. Augustine arrives in Kent in 597, sent by Pope Gregory the Great. King Ethelbert converts. A major cultural shift.
So many shifts happening. In Byzantium, Emperor Maurice is overthrown in a revolt. Focus takes over, brutally murdering Maurice and his sons.
Which triggers a Persian resurgence under Khosrow II. He launches massive wars against Byzantium, taking huge amounts of territory.
Until Heraclius fights back. A dramatic counteroffensive, recovers the lands, even gets back the True Cross relic from the Persians. But both empires are exhausted.
Precisely. And into this power vacuum, a new force emerges from Arabia.
Islam. Muhammad's first revelation around 610, the core message takes shape. Resistance in Mecca.
Then the Hijra, the move to Medina in 622, the foundation of the Muslim community, the Ummah. Early conflicts, expansion begins.
At the same time, Tang Dynasty China, under Tang Taizong, is expanding its influence, dealing with Turkic peoples, getting involved in Korea.
And later, Empress Suzation continues this expansion. While in Japan, you have Prince Shotoku's reforms, the 17-article constitution, trying to centralize power, influenced by China.
So much going on simultaneously. Let's track the early caliphate after Muhammad's death.
Abu Bakr consolidates power. Unar oversees huge expansion. Syria, Egypt, Persia fall surprisingly quickly. Uthman's reign sees further expansion but also internal tensions, favoring his own clan, the Umayyads.
Leading to discontent and his assassination, which triggers the first fitna, the first major civil war.
Exactly. Ali becomes caliph, but Muawiyah, the governor of Syria and an Umayyad, rebels. The capital moves from Medina to Kufa in Iraq. Deep divisions emerge.
Muawiyah eventually wins out, establishing the Umayyad Caliphate. They continue the expansion.
Right across North Africa, incorporating the Berbers, they build a navy, take Cyprus, raid Anatolia. They even make attempts on Constantinople itself.
Two major sieges, right? The second one, 674-678, is famous for the Byzantines using Greek fire.
Yes, that mysterious naval weapon helped them hold off the Umayyads. Meanwhile, the Lombards in Italy are strengthening their kingdom under King Rothari. Byzantine Emperor Constans II even tries to reclaim Italy, fails, and moves his court to Syracuse in Sicily.
An unusual move. Back in the east, Tang China, under Empress Wuzation, sees continued power, but also court intrigue, and the Visigothic kingdom in Spain.
Still there, but increasingly influenced by the clergy. King Egica tries to secure succession for his son, but tensions remain.
Okay, moving into the 8th century, the Umayyads face challenges, revolts by converts, wars with the Khazars up north.
And the Khazars are interesting. They ally with Byzantium Emperor Constantine V, marries a Khazar princess, Tzidzik, who becomes Empress Irene. And famously, the Khazar ruling elite converts to Judaism.
A unique situation, but the Umayyads' biggest challenge comes from within.
The Abbasid Revolution. Starting in the east in Khorasan, led by figures like Abu Muslim, they tap into various resentments against Umayyad rule.
They overthrow the Umayyads in 750. The first Abbasid caliph is Al-Safa, the Slaughterer, a bloody transition.
And they move the capital to Baghdad eventually, a new era for the caliphate. Meanwhile, in the Frankish kingdom,
Charles Martel, the Hammer, famous for the Battle of Tours in 732.
Often portrayed as stopping the Muslim advance into Western Europe, though its strategic significance is debated. What's clear is Martel holds the real power, even though he's technically just mayor of the palace. Pope Gregory III even asks him for help against the Lombards.
Setting the stage for his son, Pepin the Short.
Who makes the deal with the papacy? Deposes the last Merovingian king, gets himself crowned king of the Franks with papal blessing.
And in return, he defeats the Lombards and gives lands in Italy to the Pope, the donation of Pepin, the beginning of the Papal States.
A hugely important alliance, which leads directly to Pepin's son.
Charlemagne, Charles the Great. His reign is immense. Constant warfare, expanding the Frankish kingdom dramatically.
Saxons, Lombards, Avars pushing into Spain. Then, Christmas Day, 800 AD, Pope Leo III crowns him emperor in Rome.
reviving the idea of a Western Roman Empire, but now a Holy Roman Empire. It's a massive statement.
And he fosters a cultural revival, too, the Carolingian Renaissance. Scholars like Alcuin are central to this, standardizing script, promoting education.
While over in Britain, you have Offa of Mercia, a powerful Anglo-Saxon king building his famous dike, even interacting with Charlemagne.
But this Carolingian order faces new threats almost immediately. The Viking Age begins.
Why then? Climate change, population pressure, political instability in Scandinavia.
Probably a combination of factors. But their raids start hitting everywhere. Britain, Ireland, Francia, even the Mediterranean.
The Byzantine Empire is also under pressure. Empress Irene is ruling. She'd blinded her own son, Constantine VI. She even apparently explores an alliance with Charlemagne.
Imagine that. And the Bulgarians under Krum are a major threat to Byzantium, besieging Constantinople. There's even an assassination attempt on Krum. Eventually peace under Omertek.
Further east, unified Silla in Korea faces aristocratic resistance. And in Japan, the Heian period begins a flourishing court culture, but maybe trouble brewing beneath the surface.
Yes, the extravagance of the court contrasts with growing poverty in the countryside. And the Fujiwara clan starts dominating politics, acting as regents for the emperors.
And Tang China starts to decline. Powerful eunuchs at court, regional governors gaining too much power, peasant revolts.
Although, interestingly, trade and the economy seem to remain quite vibrant for a while, as accounts from visiting monks like Enin suggest.
Back in Europe, Charlemagne's empire doesn't last long after his death. His son, Louis the Pious, struggles to hold it together.
And after Louis dies, his sons fight it out, leading to the Treaty of Verdun in 843, dividing the empire into three parts: West Francia, East Francia, and Lotharingia in the middle, the rough basis for modern France and Germany.
And West Francia, under Charles the Bald, is dealing with constant Viking raids.
The 9th and 10th centuries really see this fragmentation accelerate, but also new powers emerging. Byzantium sends Cyril and Methodius to Moravia,
creating the Glagolitic alphabet to write Slavic languages. Huge cultural impact.
and Bulgaria under Boris Sailai converts to Christianity, cleverly playing Rome and Constantinople off against each other before choosing orthodoxy.
Byzantium itself sees the rise of the Macedonian dynasty with Basil I, after some rather murky plotting involving Emperor Michael III.
While the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad is weakening, Turkish soldiers gain influence, regional dynasties break away, power slips from the caliphs.
And in England, the Viking Great Army conquers large areas in the late 9th century.
Until Alfred the Great manages to rally Wessex and fight back, laying the groundwork for a unified England later on.
In Japan, Emperor Uda tries to curb the Fujiwara, promoting Shugiwara no Mishizane, but the Fujiwaras remain dominant.
Then you have the Magyar invasions hitting Europe from the east.
Until Henry the Fowler of Germany defeats them at the Battle of Riyadh in 933, setting up Bohemia as a buffer state.
And in 911, a key moment in France. Charles the Simple makes a treaty with the Viking leader Rollo, granting him land around Rouen.
The beginnings of Normandy.
Exactly. The Abbasid Caliphate pretty much loses all real power. With military commanders, the Amir al-Umara running things, Baghdad declines.
But in Korea, Wang Khan unites the peninsula, founding the Goryeo dynasty in 918.
And deals with the Khitan Liao dynasty rising in the north, while Scandinavia gradually converts to Christianity.
So this brings us towards the 11th century, a time of perhaps some consolidation, but also new major conflicts.
Definitely. Sven Forkbeard of Denmark conquers England. His son, Canute the Great, rules a North Sea empire: England, Denmark, Norway.
The Russes, heavily influenced by Vikings, consolidate around Kiev. Vladimir the Great's conversion to Orthodox Christianity around 988 is pivotal for Russia's future.
Otto Bols of Germany decisively defeats the Magyars again at Lechfeld in 955, ending their major raids into Western Europe. He gets crowned Holy Roman Emperor.
And the Church tries to limit the constant warfare with the Peace and Truce of God movements. Places like the Abbey of Cluny become important centers.
Further east, the Ghaznavids rise in Central Asia, pushing into northern India under Mahmud of Ghazni, famous for his campaigns and plunder.
And another Turkic group, the Seljuks under Togrul, rise around the Oxus River, conquering Persia, eventually taking Baghdad itself, though keeping the Abbasid Caliph as a figurehead.
Byzantium has a resurgence under Basil II, the Bulgar Slayer. He finally conquers Bulgaria after brutal campaigns, establishes the Varangian Guard of Viking mercenaries, fights the Fatimids in Syria.
A powerful emperor. In China, the Song dynasty is established, facing wars with the Liao and Western Xia, but also developing the civil service exams, seeing economic growth with new rice strains.
And we even see Norse exploration reaching North America. Bjarni Herolfsson cites it. Leif Erikson lands in Vinland. Short-lived settlements, interactions with locals.
Amazing. The Holy Roman Empire strengthens under Otto III and Henry II, using lay investiture, appointing bishops themselves to control the church.
Which leads to conflict later. But first, the big split. 1054, the Great Schism between the Catholic West and Orthodox East. Mutual excommunications, a formal break.
And then the Normans again. They establish themselves in southern Italy, clashing with the Pope, but eventually getting recognized.
And of course, 1066. William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, invades England, wins the Battle of Hastings, transforms England completely.
A huge moment. Meanwhile, the Reconquista in Spain is gaining pace. Christian kingdoms pushing south against the Muslim Taifa states. El Cid becomes a legendary figure. The Almoravids arrive from North Africa to bolster the Muslim side.
Byzantium weakens again after Basil II. Internal strife, the Seljuk Turks advancing in Anatolia, winning a catastrophic victory at Manzikert in 1071. The Normans take their last Italian possessions.
Emperor Alexius II Comnenus is desperate. He appeals to the West for mercenaries for help against the Turks.
Which coincides with the investiture controversy raging in the West Pope Gregory VII versus Emperor Henry IV over who appoints bishops, Henry's famous penance at Canossa.
And into this mix, Pope Urban II receives Alexius's appeal at the Council of Clermont in 1095.
He launches the First Crusade, calls on Western knights to stop fighting each other and go liberate Jerusalem from the Turks.
A call that unleashes immense energy. The People's Crusade is chaotic, but the main prince's crusade achieves early successes. Nicaea, Antioch.
Though Bohemond establishing himself as Prince of Antioch already shows a deviation from the plan to return lands to Byzantium. The crusading era had begun.
What an incredible sweep of centuries. From Roman roads literally crumbling to the foundations of new kingdoms being laid, it really underscores the power of ambition, faith, cultural clashes, and exchanges.
You see the echoes of Constantine's choice, the brilliance of leaders like Basil II, the world-changing impact of that call to crusade. The groundwork for the world we know was definitely being laid, often violently, often surprisingly.
We really hope this exploration has sparked your interest in some of these figures and events. It's worth thinking about the long ripples of seemingly small choices and just how interconnected these different parts of the world actually were.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this discussion, do subscribe to our podcasts for more explorations like this one.
Please share it with anyone you think might find it fascinating. And if you want to delve deeper into the historical writings we touched upon, check out the links in the show notes. Purchasing through them helps support bringing you more content like this.
And don't forget, Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel for those AI-powered book analyses to keep you thinking.
Most importantly, keep questioning. Think critically about these historical narratives. How do they shape how we see the world today? What new questions came up for you during our chat? What assumptions got challenged?
Because the pursuit of understanding, well, it never really ends, does it?